My name is Drake Andrews. I work at Shopify. I'm an international growth manager. So I help entrepreneurs start their business around the world and bring the product into new markets. I have a side hustle called Out and Up, which is a podcast that shares LGBT business owners' coming out stories and the relationship to business. So how they've come out of the closet and how they started a business. And we talk about how those skills transfer. And I'm excited to be here today, hopefully add some value and teach you guys about product growth and getting more people to use your product. And I'm welcomed here by Jamie, Paul, and Eric. And I'll let you guys introduce yourself. I'll start with you.
First. Hi, my name is Jamie Norman. I'm head of product for Redeye. Redeye creates a marketing automation platform that's used by a lot of the leading UK retailers. My career is basically half in B2B marketing, and then the last 10 years has been in product marketing and product management.
Hello, my name's Paul. I'm Chief Product Officer at Flowable. We do enterprise business process, case management, workflow technology. And my history is long and hairy. So a lot of it has been enterprise software, typically on premises, traditional, done startups, worked with some Bay Area companies as well. And before that, a big stint in academia doing research and development in AI, which is actually proven quite useful now. Thank you, guys.
I got the lapel. Can you guys hear me? All right. My name is Eric Peters. I am the product owner for HubSpot Academy, which is the education platform inside HubSpot. I like to think of it as the stage for online courses that other teams at HubSpot create. Some of those courses are for enabling our customers to use HubSpot software. Some of them are for attracting new users, but I own the stage.
Sweet. So I think before we talk about how to grow and get more users, I think it's important to identify your North Star, and our topic today is going to be identifying the aha moment in your product. And for those of you who don't know, the aha moment is essentially the point in time where somebody does an action that leads them to stay on your product for a long time. So at Shopify, our aha moment is when a merchant gets their first sale. As soon as they make their first sale, that's kind of like a really important moment for them in their entrepreneurial journey. And we try to essentially educate and do a lot of different experiments and content creation around getting people to that stage. And for example, like at Facebook, their aha moment is when a user has added 7 friends in under 10 days. So for them, that's like a North Star metric to drive different product to get people to that point so that they stay onto Facebook longer. And I guess to start off, I'd love to go through, do you guys have an aha moment that's clear for your product or company?
We've come at this from a couple of different angles. So there's an aha moment for our customers, which is usually quite analytics led. So when they see the results of their first campaigns and they take that on board and they leverage that to kind of iterate and build on their marketing campaigns on our platform. But we look at this from a different perspective as well. So we have our own aha moments looking in on our customers. So that comes in 2 elements. One of those is how we build our roadmap. So we build a roadmap based on broad time horizons. So we share this with our customers and we show what we're working on right now. We've got basically a column for what we're doing next, and we've got a column where we show what we're planning to do in the future. And these are quite high level things. And a real eye-opener for us was when we started to share this with our customers and started to use this as a prototype for our strategy. And they started coming to us and informing us on the things we had in the future, what would kind of work for them and what should have been higher than it actually was on the roadmap. And this was really insightful for us in terms of really understanding what that meant for our customers and the insight that it gave us. So it's more of an introspective aha moment. And that was compounded by a number of workshops that we ran. We've got a sister company that does a lot of conversion rate optimization and UX projects for some quite big organizations. And we started to eat our own cooking and use them on our own products. And I can't over emphasize what kind of insight that gives you into watching people actually use your products. And things that we saw where people were struggling, we couldn't understand why. When you actually watch people, you give them a simple task to work through and you're seeing where they get stuck. Rather than just seeing these numbers, if you're using any product analytics tool where you can see drop-offs in usage of certain features, or you can see, depending on what product you're using, you kind of seeing rage clicks and things like that. We couldn't understand the why. And then when you watch people do it, it kind of, a light went on and really kind of gave us this kind of unique insight into the reasons behind that. So that's just looking at it from a slightly different perspective.
So from my perspective, there's there's two aha moments. There's one which is the aha moment from the customer, but there's also something more important to us, the aha moment from us, the product management side of things, where we suddenly understand that's what they're doing. That's how to actually engage with them. So for us, it's very difficult. Enterprise, on-premises software. Enterprise typically means it's sort of a bit of an infrastructure. So we give our product to other people, typically something like a systems integrator, who will then take it and configure it and customize it for their end customer. Typically, that may be an IT department who is doing it on behalf of a line of business. So the link between us, the product people, and the people using it can be very remote. So actually capturing that aha moment is extremely difficult. In our particular space, the aha moment comes for the end customer or the end user when they understand how to describe what they do in a way that the software can understand. Business process management is about capturing business processes, stuff the business does, how stuff flow, information, people flow around a business. And one of the interesting combinations of those as a story for us that was a real aha moment was there was a hospital up north that was using our software for basically it was a maternity hospital, and as people were coming into the hospital, they started a patient journey and they'd register and they go through it, and there was a process that they would follow through to make sure that everything was done properly. And so there was a consultant that was working with our software, with the clinicians, with the nurses, to try and capture what it is that needs to be put in the software. And we've been working on having this, I will say, dumbed down version, a sort of simple way of capturing workflow. And we thought this is the way to actually engage with the customers and get them using it more. And the nurses in this have been working with this consultant, watching stuff happening with the sort of dumbed down version, then seeing what the guy was doing with the more advanced editing. And it got to a point where literally the nurses were elbowing the person out of the way and saying, just let me do it, this is too slow, and actually doing the more sophisticated designing of the process themselves. And that was that combined aha moment where the nurse suddenly got what we were doing, and we actually suddenly got that actually dumbing down isn't the critical thing. It's actually showing people, getting them over a speed bump. There's always a speed bump, and it's getting people over that speed bump and getting them to see that speed bump and helping them over that. And so we actually changed our approach. So we emphasize more getting people using the more sophisticated thing with sort of safety bumpers around it, rather than saying we're going to dumb it right down in terms of functionality.
I got mine.
Oh, yeah.
So
I'll work it out by the end of the time.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about the HubSpot Academy experience. Specifically, HubSpot is a platform in itself, and it has its own activation points or North Star metrics. But from just looking at Academy as an acquisition channel, for a long time, we really focused on the first lesson that they would complete. The experience is that you sign up for a course and you land in the application until you start your course, or you find a course and then start that one. And so for a long time, we saw if they complete their first lesson within 6 hours, they had a much higher retention rate going forward for their first few weeks. And what we found, though, when we started running experiments against that activation point, was that there were other things that could influence it, like the topic that they were learning about, the content itself, how engaging that professor was of that course. So we kind of took a step back earlier this year, and we did impact outcome mapping, where we looked at what is the overall impact we want to have at the business. So in our case, it's either, if it's acquiring new users, it's decreasing cost of acquisition. If it's educating our existing customers, it's increasing lifetime value. But it's either protecting or creating MRR for HubSpot. And then we look at a layer down and what the key success measures of that impact are. And then we break those key success metrics into the user behaviors that result in those. So from there, we can make a much more direct connection between specific user behaviors that impact the overall MRR of HubSpot Academy for HubSpot. So from there, we've landed actually on a couple different sort of metrics, which by definition doesn't really make it a North Star metric. But for us, we needed to know, for our new users, what is considered the activation point for them versus our existing customers using HubSpot Academy for the first time. What does it look like for them? And that's how we kind of think about it at HubSpot.
Cool. So there's definitely a lot of different ways you can go about it and identify it. I love to kind of read the room. Who here has a North Star or like an aha moment that's clear for their product? Just raise your hand. Cool. So, I thought there was going to be one person. I'll like shift the discussion. So I guess there's a lot of people that don't have a clear aha moment. So I think it'd be important to add value there and discuss how to establish that or ways you can kind of look into the user experience or just like asking your customers like which way to go and finding out where they're going to stay on longer. So one thing that we've done is looking at cancellation reasons. So when you cancel your subscription, we ask why. And a large segment was they didn't make money. They didn't make their first sale. And that's obviously super important for a merchant that's using our product. So with that, is kind of like a clear way to go about it. And a lot of things shifted after that and kind of adding more resources and value to making sure that these people made their first sale. So things like making sure our support team is able to communicate and educate every single person that calls on ways to go about it. So you can call about setting up your domain, for example, but the support person would actually do like a quick audit of your store and be like, hey, did you know that you have like new Facebook channels or Instagram channels or different ways to use the product to help you get to that aha moment. Other things that made it really special is if you make your first sale on Shopify and you have the mobile app downloaded, there's actually a cha-ching noise that happens. So you get a notification and it's like super special. And a lot of people actually tweet us saying like they love that. I mean, when you're making like thousands of sales, they generally turn that off because it's quite annoying. But to make like a moment in time that really makes the person kind of step back and realize that something special happened is also really good. So, you can have like a specific email campaign or things that happen when somebody hits that aha moment to reward them and inspire them to do more, for example. And I'd love to just like open up to the panel here to see ways that you've identified and like helped get people past and accomplishing their aha moment. Anything that comes to mind?
I can talk a little. I mean, that outcome impact mapping of user behaviors, that is a very valuable tool because typically you have executives who want to talk about MRR and KPIs and business impact metrics, but then you have designers and engineers who want to talk about user behaviors. And so connecting the dots between those two things is what that strategy does. So if you Google impact outcome mapping, you'll find some valuable ways to find out like what are the user behaviors that have the biggest impact on the business.
Just to build on that, and a thread that's come up in a few of the answers that we gave was around how you get more of a view on what the customers are actually doing and how you can get closer to that. And that doesn't just come from product as well. I think some of the best insights we've had is where we've got our development team behind some of these screens watching our clients doing things, and for them to kind of see this stuff actually happen really brings it to life for them, and they can have a huge impact on how you can kind of create more of these and how it kind of translates into what they do. So that's just an observation that we found.
Okay, cool. There's a question here. How did you come up with the aha moment? I briefly talked about it, looking into, the data and churn or just listening to your users. But there's also things that you can do like a live recording of somebody using your product and kind of seeing their facial expression, for example. I think that can tell a lot that data won't. Do you guys have anything else to add as far as like how to come up with one for like the general public?
I mean, sadly, a lot of it seems to be, from my experience, you've just got to see it. You trying to actually spot it in data, it can be difficult. It's almost that look on someone's face. you have to see it. And so you have to spend time with your customers. That I think that's the only way to truly do it. And if you set out believing that you understand what the aha moment is, you probably got it wrong. You need to actually get out there and see it, and then you'll find it. So coming up with the aha moment, you will find it. You can't invent it. Generally.
Fair enough. And I think there's like a question here, what's the added value of having an aha moment? I think it's generally because you can do 1,000 different things. So making sure everyone's aligned on the team, that's going to result in more impact for your product is mainly the reason. And I think also it just makes the person using your product last longer. So you want to find like a certain point in time through the merchant journey or through your user's journey that's going to help them stay on for 5-10 years. So it's just like aligning your team and all your growth experiments to lead towards that. Otherwise, you can just do like 1,000 different things and kind of be more scattered. So I think that's generally like the big reason to have value there.
I think the other value of recognizing and understanding the aha moment is, it's not just it's engagement from inside as well. So when you as a product manager get that aha, okay, that's what the customer is using, that's hugely valuable. As you're saying, trying to get the developers so they understand or see the aha. We're very lucky, we're open source. So our developers have a very close relationship with a lot of the end users. So the developers do actually get to see some of those aha, they'll give it a response, and suddenly a developer, that they're talking to or a person trying to configure something gets it, and they see the aha moment. So the level of engagement you get internally to the overall problem is one thing. But the other real advantage of the aha moment in your customers is typically when that person has the aha moment, they become an evangelist for your product. Suddenly you're not having to do the selling, within their business. They're doing the selling for you. So actually having an aha moment, understanding it and getting people to that point, they suddenly become your salesperson, that's a total huge value there.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah, and in a freemium situation, you only have minutes for that user to find value. So you want to sort of centralize your efforts to making sure the most amount of people find as much value as possible. We think of it like there's an ease spectrum versus a motivation spectrum. If it's very easy, they don't need a lot of motivation to get to that moment. If it's the opposite is true with ease and motivation. So for us, we need one central point that our engineers can focus on and get as many people to that point so they can see value and stick around to continue evaluating your product.
Cool. And the next topic that we're going to start talking about, and thanks everyone for asking questions, really appreciate it. You can upvote them, it seems like, as well, so get in there. But the next one is collecting feedback to find opportunities for improvement. I think that's really important. And there's kind of two ways to go about that. I think either like asking your users or having those like one-to-one conversations or just digging into the data. I think both can tell you two different things. So the talking to the people face-to-face and getting that feedback is going to tell you why, whereas the data is going to tell you what's happening. So you can see like where your funnel's breaking, but then you want to like ask people who have gone through that funnel what happened in that moment to get better feedback and to improve different things. Do you guys have any different product switches or pivots that have resulted in kind of going into the data or getting feedback to make different improvements, finding opportunities?
Again, I have to say it's difficult for us from that non-SaaS on-premises enterprise. You're just getting data out from an enterprise is brutally hard. But one of the observations I'd make around the data side of things, and again, this is from what I've seen and what I know, if you're going to go very data-driven, one of the things to be very aware of, and people are becoming more aware of this because of some of the AI technology and stuff that's going on now, is profiling. Don't just look at the data and think that that's telling you everything you need to know. You need to understand who is in the input to that funnel, because what you're ending up doing with that data analysis is profiling people. And if you're not careful, the data analysis can profile things and you can believe that you're learning something, but that's actually only true for a very small community, but which may not be your target community or the market you want to address. So with any of these things, I know people are, data-driven, be very aware of what you're profiling and what your data inputs are, because that has huge impact on what you can infer from the data.
We've really developed a kind of portfolio mindset to the courses that we offer. We noticed that some topics drive higher sales. We had an email marketing course that would attract people who had challenges with email marketing. If they were to come and buy our email marketing software, that was a higher cost product for HubSpot. So we would, make more money on a per sign-up basis from those users, but then we'd balance them out with, more high volume courses like Instagram marketing. So it's this kind of portfolio mindset of which courses we want to offer, who they're attracting, and what features and sort of tiers of HubSpot can we sell to those users based on what they're challenged with.
Cool. And I'm going to stick a lot to these questions that are coming up because I think it's just going to add the most value and just people liking it and things like that. So going back to the aha moment quickly, for the question is, for existing customers, how do you create new aha moments to encourage usage? Oh, kind of switched around there, ready to go. But yeah, I think just you can pivot your aha moment too, depending on your product. So if you're like a merchant, it could be when somebody buys the product twice, for example. Yeah, thanks for highlighting it. Or introduce new features as well, because you can discover different things along the path. And I think each experiment or product feature can have their own aha moment as well. So for example, adding a sales channel and making a sale through a different sales channel for our merchants is another aha moment. Hitting different milestones is really interesting as well. And I think you can approach it with like gamification. So you can create like a reward for different milestones. So I think like getting their first sale, yes, is very exciting, but so is getting their thousands, like in the thousands of product sales and different things like that. So there's a lot of different ways you can go about it. Have you guys pivoted from your aha moment, or how do you make people feel that same importance or stay on longer for different parts of the funnel?
We've looked at this in a similar context to A/B testing. So when you have an aha moment, for example, where you basically start to use that as a metric within the business, so you kind of raise the visibility of it, and that becomes a focus for how you're going to kind of build on your acquisition and your retention, things like that. In the context of A/B testing, you might have a winning test that you use. That's your kind of default approach to an experiment. And then if you think you've got a new aha moment that you think might surpass that because it brings something new to the product, then you almost kind of test that against the existing one. Usually it's not right. It's like we mentioned before, that sometimes what you think that moment is doesn't turn out to be true. So by continuously kind of doing this more of an experimental approach, then you kind of almost always pushing things forward in terms of like what the next key moment is. And you might have multiple aha moments in the product. So you might have that first week where you have a welcome program, and you can see where the key aha moments are coming into play. And they're the people that are going to become your kind of better users. But then there's different points along the journey in terms of the maturity of a customer where there might be multiple aha moments. So don't feel like you're restricted to just one. If you think of it as a natural customer journey, there might be multiple points along the way where you get a kind of uplift in whether that's new features or just a greater adoption of the product within that organization, things like that. So don't just think you're kind of stuck with the one.
Cool. And there's a question here for you, Eric. Is the impact of the Academy to reduce CAC or to increase the long-term value for HubSpot? That's interesting.
It started out as impacting LTV. So it started out as a customer enablement and partner enablement tool to teach our users how to use software. And I don't want to spill too much into what I'm going to talk about tomorrow, but over the years, we built it out to be an acquisition channel. And now it's one of HubSpot's most efficient acquisition channels because the vast majority of the traffic coming to it is organic. And we feature the free versions of our software in those courses. So it lays people into the flow of upgrading pretty nicely. So it kind of does both. I would say 50% of our weekly active users are free Academy only users versus customers learning more about the software that they're using. And there's a lot of magic that happens by having that all happen in one place.
Cool. Thank you. Let's jump to the next topic. So it's all about cutting features that aren't working for your users. So, there's a lot of examples of this. And I think if you're experimenting with different projects or kind of product features, you really have to measure the impact and get a good read of your users. So, there's a lot of like notorious examples of this. So Coke, for example, was declining in market share with Pepsi. So they ended up changing the recipe. I don't know if you guys remember this or not, but pretty much the public was like in outrage. So they quickly pivoted pivoted like in a month, I think. They went back to their old recipe and rebranded to Coca-Cola Classic. So there's things like that where I think you can have certain tripwires in place that's really going to help you identify when you need to force pivot. And I think that's really important. Just because you ship this product that took a year and people aren't really using it, you shouldn't necessarily have like investment into it where you're like, we put a lot of money into it, so we're just going to leave it out there. I think it's really important to test out different product features and pivot to add value to your customers as well. And sometimes it's really hard. I think also if you're a product manager, for example, you can take things personally. You know, if you spent a year on a product and it's not going well, I think it's really important to, zoom out and think about the customer or the user and kind of do a forced pivot. I think also like the company or team that you're working with is going to really appreciate it. But I know in my own experience, it's really hard to not take things that work well personally, especially if you're experimenting so much. Do you guys resonate with that at all? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those, again, tricky thing to be analytical about. I think if you have to pivot, then in some ways you have to accept that you've made a mistake. Your assumptions about things are wrong, and yeah, you got to take it personally because you've messed up in some way. So, and I think if you have to pivot as a product manager, that's some of the culpability comes to you, and you've got to learn from it. That's the only way about it. And it's all about understanding what's the impact of what you're doing, the changes you're making, and feeling confident about it. Sometimes you may be right not to pivot. Sometimes you do just have to, take that approach. No, this is the way it's going to be. The Apple mentality. We're right, and you'll learn to live with it. So, but yeah, I think it's just something you always have to be considering if you're doing something that's going to make a major impact. What if I have to, actually plan out? Okay, what if there is a reaction or rejection of this? Let's have a plan B. So when the CEO comes jumping on my head, I've actually got a plan B ready to go, saying, here we go.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned something quickly there about it's a learning. I think that's really important. And generally, when I experiment and something doesn't go the way I want, you actually get to create value for everyone else that's going to join your company afterwards. Like Shopify is a pretty big beast, so we generally will try to create an artifact that lives in our team. So in a year from now, when somebody else wants to do something similar, there's actually a document here that says, why didn't it work? How would I have done this differently? And that's extremely valuable, and that's almost just as valuable as it working, because then they can take that learning and a pivot, adjust, and try something new with something that they might not have context of. So I think it's really important not to just to shove it to the side, but to also create communication to the future employees, to the future different opportunities ahead as well. Eric, do you have any examples of cutting a feature, for example?
Yeah, so I'm going to speak more towards HubSpot as a platform rather than specifically HubSpot Academy. We haven't cut too many features in HubSpot Academy, but if you think about HubSpot as this sort of ecosystem of applications that all kind of talk to each other, there's, say, 100 mini apps and then maybe 50 or so engineering teams. So at any given state, we can either be maintaining one of those apps, building it out further, or deprecating it. And we haven't had to deprecate many applications or many pieces of HubSpot or features, but the ones we do, it always comes down to this volume of usage versus pain it's causing, or demand in the market, right? Because we're creating marketing software, sales software, customer service software, and if consumer behavior has evolved in a way that application is no longer needed to do good digital marketing, then there's not enough volume in it for us to warrant having a dedicated engineering team on it. So we're going to figure out how we can kind of either enable the function in other ways if there is anyone still using it, or just deprecate it. But culling the dead weight of your application is a very important way to keep it evolving and maintaining value over time.
And going back to the questions from the audience, what's one thing you've done that has had the biggest impact to user revenue or growth? I think it goes back to what I mentioned earlier about making your first sale. So something we do and invest a lot in is in content. So we post multiple blogs a day. We try to figure out different ways to go about getting more revenue for our merchants. If our merchants are successful, we're successful. So that's a huge pillar for us for different content buckets. Historically, we did a lot of blog content, but in the newer years, we've done things like our own academy. So we have Shopify Academy, which is designed to educate and inspire people to do new methods. So for example, how to leverage Facebook ads, how to leverage different types of products. So print on demand, for example, or drop shipping. How do you add more things to your store? And then also, like educating your support. Like in our example, like our merchants talk to us almost every day. We're available 24/7 through Christmas or whatever. Black Friday, Cyber Monday just passed, which is a huge shopping season for our merchants. And we have like all hands on deck to support these people for educating them, for example, to leverage this weekend. So if someone calls like 3 weeks ago, we're going to ask them what they're doing to prep for BFCM and kind of talk about different ways to go about it. So adding like banners or downloading different apps to help you make more sales through the weekend, doing things like email campaigns, different Facebook marketing, Instagram marketing, leveraging influencers for the flash sale, for example, and really to leverage certain times that they might not even be aware of. Somebody could join and not know that BFCM is a huge opportunity for them, but we know through our million different merchants that it's the biggest weekend of the year, and some businesses plan the whole year just for this one weekend. So we leverage those learnings and kind of like educate everyone who might be new to commerce, for example. Do you guys have examples of things that have really impacted the revenue of people using your product?
Not a particularly tangible thing, but I would say in B2B SaaS, focusing on the customers of our customers, if they're happy, then our customers are going to be happy. So where our customers are using our software to create great experiences for their customers, we make sure our customers know that we are worried about their customers just as much as we are about ours.
So for us in enterprise software, one of the things which is a bit sad really is that the end user usually doesn't have the option of pressing the cancel account button. They have to use your software whether they like it or not. So it's typically not about acquiring users in that sense. It is about acquiring the revenue of the business. And so this is almost a completely different side of things from the user experience. For us is from the product perspective, how do you project thought leadership often? So how do you demonstrate something which is aspirational? So for the organization, for the CIO, for the CTO, for the CEO, something that they want their business to become or to engage with. So actually the biggest things we've done have been some almost like, I don't want to say demoware, or vaporware, but more aspirational product features which aren't going to be used for real, maybe for several years, but they basically have shown an innovation or a sort of capability that a company wants to be. So that the biggest thing we've done is not actually user oriented at all. It's pitching to the market, pitching to Gartner. If they put you in that top right quadrant, then there are lots of people that will pay them lots of money to get their opinion about you.
Jamie?
Just picking up on the Black Friday comment that you made. When I joined Redeye, Black Friday was hardly a thing over here. It's kind of just moved over in the last 5-6 years maybe, and it's become the busiest week of the year for us because we have a lot of retail clients. So there's a lot of spotlight on basically last week and the period leading up to Christmas, and it's one of the things that's had a huge impact for us. And we're seeing some of the results from last week because it's no longer about Black Friday. It's like the whole week leading up to it, and people who's the first person to launch their Black Friday sale and all these kind of things. What was a simple product innovation that we introduced had a transformative effect on some of the things our clients were doing. So we deal in multi-channel marketing, but email is still quite a big part of that. And we introduced an algorithm that basically it will allow you to target more engaged people more, the people that want to receive more messages more often, and the people that don't engage so much. It kind of pairs back the communications, which means a lot of our clients could send fewer emails at a time of the year when a lot of the ISPs will throttle a lot of the outgoing messages and things like that. There's a lot of strain on the systems generally in this kind of 24-hour period, and it meant that a lot of our clients could send fewer messages of a more personalized nature, but still manage to generate more revenue. So they can kind of circumvent a lot of these restrictions. And that's paid dividends over the last 2 years when we introduced it. So this kind of insight into the customers of our customers really helped us to do that, because it's not just a case of people want to receive less emails. Some people actually that are very engaged want to receive more. The results we've seen that are coming in over the weekend from last week have really shown that that's kind of paid off, and that's been a really impactful change for us.
That's really interesting. Just to go back to the questions again, just want to make sure everyone gets their questions answered. Eric, I'd love to ask you this question. How do you measure the usage impact of key marketing campaigns? So the Academy is like a acquisition channel. I'm sure there's different marketing deliverables that are happening to drive people to use the Academy and to learn from it. What are some of the things there for you?
For us, it's tricky because we teach inbound marketing, so we have to abide by what we're teaching, right? So we try not to run too many ads. The only time we'll run ads is if we have a new course coming out, and we tend to retarget our existing users to sort of tell them that a new course related to a topic that they're already learning about has come out. And we'll look for the, query parameters coming in from those landing pages and signing up and re-accessing the courses, and look at their retention rate, how often do they complete the course, how they do on the exam. Every course, or most of our courses, have a certification exam at the end. So you can actually see, people who come in through ads are less likely to finish the course. They'll score lower on the exam at the end of it. And you get this kind of, full picture of people's learning outcomes based on the different traffic sources they come from, and, the different entry points they came from.
Do you have specific KPIs for that? Like how you're measuring that?
Yeah, more so on the content creators. So if HubSpot Academy is a platform, we enable those content creators to see, what the completion rates for their course are, what the average scores on the exams are, and we want them to optimize, and we will literally remove their course. So talk about culling features. We'll take their course out if not enough people are passing their exam because they, did something wrong with the questions, or how things are worded, or even how things are translated to different languages. So a lot of the per course metrics get pushed onto the content creators, whereas we focus on like the overall app as an ecosystem of learners, and look at the overall lesson completion rates and overall course completion rates.
I love how you're transparent with the results with your course instructors. I think that's really important. It helps them align with you as well.
At this point, they're all internal. So
okay, yeah.
it's easy. At some point in the future, I'm sure we'll have more and more external course creators, and we'll have to create like analytics dashboards for them to measure themselves. We look up to some of the really sophisticated online course providers out there like Coursera, who have, awesome internal pedagogy tools to make sure your courses are reaching, learning outcomes. So.
Okay, that's kind of a good segue into the next question in regards to the topics today, which is how to leverage partnerships to get more people to use your product. Do you have any partnerships that help get more people to use your courses, for example?
Oh yeah, so we will partner with online course providers like Coursera, like Udacity, and either create content for them that leads people back to come take the certification exam in our application. HubSpot, in the broader sense of HubSpot, we have native integration partner Shopify. We have an alliance team that decided we don't want to build e-commerce into HubSpot right now, or ever. So we're going to build a Shopify integration and partner with Shopify. And so you guys send your customers our way, we send our customers your way, and we can like double the outcome for the same amount of development work.
Paul, what about you? Any strong partnerships that help?
So we have two types of partners. One is because we're enterprise, then as I keep saying, there's a bit that people need to do to actually fit us into their organizations, typically a system integrator or someone is involved. So we have partners who are integrator partners, and then we have partners who are technology partners. So we partner with other technologies. Typically, the integration partners tend to be more tactical. They're the ones who actually will get some money. They'll actually go and find and sell your product for you because it sells their services. The technology partnerships tend to be marketing driven rather than value driven, I would say. And because also we're open source, a lot of our partners we don't actually know about. They're just building stuff with our software. So, For being a relatively small organization with a wide global footprint, you have to have partners that can actually take your product and customize it to the different verticals, different regions, everything else. So yeah, it's hugely important for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and same with Shopify. I think in our early days, a big thing that helped drive usage and adoption of Shopify. When we were brand new, we only had a couple like 1,000 merchants, for example, and now we have 1 million, so it's like a whole different level. But we created a partner ecosystem. So we knew that merchants needed help with building their online store, or a lot of people have issues with creating their own marketing campaigns, for example. So we created a partnership with a bunch of agencies to help our merchants. So we have agencies with the marketing side, with education, and all those things. And we essentially looked at what could help these partners join our ecosystem. So in an agency world, you're kind of going client to client. So you're kind of getting paid maybe every 4 months, for example. So we knew that recurring revenue would be a huge benefit for these partners. So my mic just cut off.
Time for beer.
Yeah, I think they're kicking off stage right now. But so that's a huge win for us. And now we have this massive ecosystem from around the world that's driving massive impact, not only for Shopify, but for our merchants and for themselves. So some of these agencies are Shopify only now. Like for example, Bold Commerce builds apps for Shopify. And pretty much they have over 800 employees now, all building on Shopify. So our partner ecosystem has created these massive companies around the world, which is really interesting. So I'm curious to see if like you guys can take that away and start leveraging more of the partnership ecosystem to build your own or to leverage other ones. Things that you can also do, for example, is like influencer marketing, like find people who are using your product that might have an audience and work with them, get them to educate their audience on why influencer marketing is really interesting, and to create local heroes, especially if you're new into the space. I think leveraging somebody else's audience is a huge win to go through that process. So we'll go back to the questions here. How do you know you need to pivot rather than improve something that is blocking the happy path on the new user journey? So Jamie, I wonder if there's things that you do in regards to like different marketing channels, or how you pivot.
It's usually quite obvious. Someone will tell you. You often get surprised where the happy path on a new user journey doesn't work as you expect. We're a little different in that we're not a kind of like a subscription service. So a company would invest in us based on an annual license. So we've got a little bit more freedom really to kind of review that. So the feedback loop isn't so immediate that someone would just like stop using the product. So we're quite fortunate in that respect that we can use it and basically make that switch, which not everyone has the kind of good fortune to be able to do that. So we kind of try to make the most of that. Still don't always get it right. Usually the channels of communication with the client are quite direct. Also, Redeye started as an agency model. So the tools that we built were basically used in-house, and we were a managed service. And then we developed those to be more kind of public facing. So a lot of our users are still internal users because we still offer a managed service. So we've got a very direct feedback of the new features before they even go to market. So if there's any way you can kind of replicate that model, I'd definitely recommend it, either in how you manage beta programs and things like that, because you need to try and learn those things early on. Sometimes you don't really know until it's probably a little bit too late. But the more you can do early on to kind of get that feedback, whether it's in how you deploy an experiment or how you kind of manage that process, the more that can help.
So, my mic's back. So is it focus group really helps you with that?
Focus group's one method, yeah. We have a lot of direct feedback communications channels. The fact that we have these internal users in the same building, that they just walk over to you and just tell you, it's quite direct.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah. Not something you can always kind of do something about immediately, but it's certainly a very direct way of getting that feedback. Focus groups is quite a big part of that. We've got a client user group that's made up. We've got an internal one and we've got a client one. We run a lot of customer events as well, where we share prototypes of features. So we kind of get some quite direct feedback that informs some of our strategic initiatives with that. So we might share things we think are going to be useful that might only just be a kind of beautified wireframe, really, but you get quite direct feedback there.
Okay.
So a few different methods, really.
Right on. So there's a few minutes left, so I'd love to just get the lightning round of these questions out of the way. So if you have any last questions, just jump in there. So our product uses goals shared between teams. How is that working or not working for you? I'm open to the panel here.
Yes, absolutely important for everyone to know the main goals of the product. We have a roadmap that everyone has access to, so that keeps everybody aligned. Keeps all of our vectors aligned, so to speak.
Cool. We'll go to the next one here. For acquisition via content marketing, how do you identify what new content to invest that will lead to greatest ROI?
We look at monthly search volume. So 60-70% of our traffic is coming through Google. So if we want to target a search engine results page that we think is valuable based on the product that we offer, we will target that page and do everything we can to rank at the top of it. There's a SEO course in HubSpot Academy you can take. That's how HubSpot ranks #1 when it wants to.
Cool. I think you can also track it by which one gets to your aha moment the most. Like those are good things to track as well, just to bring it back. And the last question here is for you again. With Course on Instagram, do you not shoot your brand in the foot to sell enterprise/bigger clients?
So HubSpot specifically doesn't sell to enterprise. I mean, enterprise depends. In some regions, enterprise is 200 people. But the Instagram marketing course is interesting because companies of all sizes are still trying to figure it out. Nobody's really mastered the methodology on doing Instagram marketing that well. Influencer marketing is kind of where it's gone to. So that course was awesome because it generated 2,000 signups in the first day. And we have tools in HubSpot that enable people to post to Instagram. So it attracted a whole bunch of people who have challenges with that. And hopefully they will take more courses, be aware of HubSpot, use HubSpot when the time comes that they want to buy software like HubSpot. But we're not necessarily, I don't think, deterring any enterprises, unless I'm not understanding that question, right?
I think it's interesting you just said kind of listening to the users and where the demand is for the courses is a good way to go about it. Are you developing courses for example, TikTok that's kind of new on the market?
So social topics are really tricky because they change so fast. And one of our differentiators in the market is that we keep our content up to date. If you go to a lot of online course providers, there's really old courses on there. So we want everything to be the freshest concept. And social changes so fast. We wanted to create a Snapchat course, but that went out the window because people stopped using Snapchat for marketing as much as they were, at least in our target audience. So there's kind of a scoring framework that we use to pick out what courses we want and their evergreen score, how likely we are going to need to change that course over the next 6 to 12 months is one of the scores that goes into how we pick which course we're going to create next. Because it takes a long time to create one of these courses. It's 150,000 words in some cases.
Jamie, what about you? Are you experimenting with TikTok, for example, and the new channels?
In terms of our own marketing?
Yeah, for multi-channel.
Most of what we're doing is for our clients. So our multi-channel marketing is more what we're delivering for them. Our sales channels are more kind of traditional sales channels in terms of our own marketing. We generally get in a lot of pitch situations, so it's a very sort of different approach. But a lot of the content that's generating the kind of invitation to pitch is very much led by probably led by buzzwords. So we kind of use those to kind of get a foot in the door, and then we kind of can leverage the kind of benefits of the product. So that could be around what people are searching for in terms of whether it's a data platform or what the kind of trends are in marketing automation. So we kind of need to follow that quite closely so we can get in the door and kind of open up the conversation.
Okay, right on. Well, we're out of time. So thanks everyone who stuck around for an hour of this panel. I appreciate you guys listening. And that's it. We're going to wrap it up. So thanks everyone. Have a good day.